have the President of the United States, well, the President of North America, Graham Riley. Not the United States, not Canada, but the President of Maverick North America. Right, Graham?
There you go.
I keep doing that on the lives, by the way. I keep saying the President of the United States and then feel the need to say you are not Joe Biden.
Yes, yes.
I think you're a little younger.
Just a little, but every time you say it, I know what's coming next with a clarification.
Yeah, the clarification. It's probably some inbuilt psychological thing in me that I have to do that.
Right, right.
So we're live. I'm going to check that we are live and make sure that works. But if people are watching this, give us a wave in the chat and say hello. We're going to actually talk about why you should build your social selling muscle.
Mm-hmm.
Because, people go, oh, social selling, is that the easy way of selling, or is it the wimp's way of selling?
Right.
And we're going to kind of dispel some myths about it. But just before we get started, just while the live's kicking in, Graham, how long have you been a believer in social selling then?
Since 2009, just after the Great Recession that we had here. What my sales team was telling me was that people were no longer picking up the phone, responding to phone calls, responding to emails. But what I noticed was that if I reached out to somebody on LinkedIn, I would more often than not actually get a response. And so it was a very interesting way to reach out and engage with people outside of what we traditionally think of as the normal conduit for a salesperson into an organization.
And I'm just spotting Dan's give us a wave hello. So hi, Dan. I kind of got into it. And I should say, by the way, I'm in Plymouth, UK. Graham is in
Minneapolis.
Minneapolis.
Yes.
And I look like I should be in Minneapolis and Graham should be in Plymouth by the way we're dressed, because I hate the cold. Like, you literally hate the cold. So my office here in Plymouth averages somewhere around 25 degrees every single day. People walk in my office and say, it feels like I've walked into a tropical climate. But
right.
And Graham, what's the temperature there?
Right now outside, it's a balmy minus 27.
Whoa. Okay. I'm glad I'm here. So I got into social selling later than you, Graham.
Yeah.
You probably got in when it was really, really easy. Yeah.
Right.
Because nobody was doing it. But actually now it's not that it's hard. It is harder because more people are doing it, but more people are doing it badly.
That was us. You're describing us back in 2009. You say that I got into it in 2009. It was all figuring out what the hell are we doing right now?
No, but if you think about it, because so many like if I rewind to like 3-4 years ago, right? And I'm not advocating you do this. So LinkedIn, if you're watching this, I am not advocating automation. I'm not advocating spam.
Mm-hmm.
But about 4 years ago, if you had a message you copied and pasted to people on LinkedIn, you'd probably get some decent responses.
Right.
But now that game's over. You can't really get away with that same thing anymore.
Right. Right. And there isn't an expectation, I don't think, of anyone when they actually log into LinkedIn that I want to be sold to. And so it's some mental chiropractic with the business development professionals is I want to sell on this platform, but the audience isn't there to be sold to. So how do they reconcile that? Yeah.
And the reality is what a lot of people, when they get to the DMs, they do forget that. They forget that actually I was just on a workshop with a company in the US, and we were talking about for people to want to your job on LinkedIn, if you're a salesperson, is to get somebody interested to a call.
Yes.
But a lot of the DMs I see don't look like they're trying to get people interested. They look like a blast of, this is how amazing we are.
Well, they're taking the approach of, if I send X amount of emails, I will get a certain percentage of a response. And I think one of the first things that have got to be adjusted in people's thinking is that LinkedIn is really just this great networking event in the cloud, that your profile is the representation of who you are, regardless of your industry or position. It's a representation of who you've decided to show up as a professional. It's an indication of your communication style and your attention to detail. And the idea is then that if it's a networking event, then I should be behaving on the platform as I would in life, which means that I'm being polite, professional, and courteous.
Yeah. And the reality is, if it's quite hard, it's not impossible. We've got guides on how to do this, but constructing a DM that gets you a response,
right,
it has to be personal.
Yeah, absolutely.
You can't really, I've seen some terrible ones where it's like, you can spot templates now. We're trained to spot templates. You know, they're just following up, just circling back.
Right.
So Graham, and this is totally unscripted. We're just literally, Graham just came on the link and I said, this is what we're going to be talking about. So we're doing this off the cuff. Craig, welcome. Shadi, welcome. Dan, if you're watching this on LinkedIn or wherever you're watching it, put something in the chat or in the comments. Ask your questions, because me and Graham spend all of our lives talking about social selling and LinkedIn.
We do.
Like 7 to 8 hours a day, pretty much. That's all we do.
That is true.
So we pretty much see the good, the bad, and the ugly. So if you're watching this and you go, actually, how would you approach this? How would you do this? What's the best way to find this? Any kind of social selling, LinkedIn questions, we're here to answer. Yeah. But Graham, if there's one skill that you think somebody needs on LinkedIn,
right,
what would it be?
The one skill, I would say the patience to do your due diligence to craft that custom message, that targeted message that speaks to your prospective audience's pain points.
Yeah. That's pretty good. Actually, if you can do that research, you will also be able to write lead generation content as well.
Absolutely. Yep.
So
it's foundational.
Yeah. I got a message from somebody yesterday, and they said to me, it was almost like your post was talking just to me. Because I'd articulated in that post a problem that some of our target audience face of when we get in front of the right people, they love us. But getting in front of the right people, getting that first meeting seems like the hardest thing on earth.
Yeah. The problems that we face, Dean, in securing new clients, engagement with prospective clients, is the same as for anybody else in the business development profession. How are we, first of all, inserting ourselves into somebody's attention? And once we have their attention, how are we then creating a curiosity or a differentiator that they're going to start to pay attention and engage with us?
Yeah. And given this is something that a lot of big companies struggle to get. Not all of them, some struggle to get.
Right.
When I'm talking to them about LinkedIn, Verina's asked a question. So Verina, we'll come we'll come and ask your question in a second. When one of the big challenges for big companies is that when you get to LinkedIn, the marketing piece and the sales piece collide.
Mm-hmm.
So whereas some social channels like Facebook, for example, for a lot of businesses, it's just a marketing channel.
Right. Right.
But LinkedIn is where you've got a sales team, you've got HR people,
Mm-hmm.
you've got all your employees in that space.
Mm-hmm.
You've got sales team in that space and the marketing in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And companies don't know how to deal with that.
Right.
And I've seen two ways. I've seen the free for all where it's just a mess. Yeah. And everybody's doing something different. And I've seen the opposite where the company is controlling everything and stifling the reach of the platform. So I'll give you one example, and I'm not going to go into a monologue, I promise, Graham. I was on this morning with a company and I looked at their company page stats, and then we tracked 27 employees content who'd been posting consistently.
Right.
The company page had got about, over 6 months, about 250,000 content impressions.
Mm-hmm.
The 27 employees had got 10 million.
Mm-hmm.
So when the people are free to do something but channeled for the company, it can have a massive benefit.
Yeah.
But actually, and I'll get to my original point, whether you're a salesperson, a business owner, a marketer, you are a marketer and you are a salesperson.
Right.
Because you're doing both. You're marketing yourself and promoting the company. But actually, solopreneur and salesperson for a 10,000 plus company are on a level playing field.
Agreed. Yeah. It doesn't matter the size of the organization, whether you're representing yourself for a job, yourself for that multinational. When you're in front of a prospective client, whether in person or your profile's in front of them, you're the embodiment of the brand.
Yeah.
At that point, it doesn't really matter what the website's saying or what the company page is saying. It's how are you engaging with them? And companies will tell you all day long, our people are our most important asset. And then they go about marketing, as you said, trying to direct all of the marketing. But this is what we do as an organization. And so the example you provided of far more engagement from your people, it's because they're your best asset, and allowing your subject matter experts to speak to the pain points that the company's in existence to solve. And when everyone's pulling on the same rope in the same direction, a small 20-something person company can dominate and outperform with its sales pipeline far larger organizations with deeper pockets.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at each taking a crack at Verina's question.
Oh yeah. So what's Verena saying? Shall I put it on screen so we can see it?
Yeah, absolutely.
People can see it. So Verena's question is, how would you proceed with contacting HR managers you want to get hired by? So I'll give some answers, Graham, and then you chip in there. And if anybody else has got questions, please put them in the chat or the comments about anything to do with LinkedIn, and we'll answer them whilst we're here.
Yeah.
So my first tip is, and this is a big one. Oh, I've got two, and then I'll hand over to Graham. Number one, human nature on LinkedIn is people check your profile before they decide whether they'll reply. So there's no fair process. They evaluate your profile, your face, your headline, your name, what the shape of your profile looks. People judge you by your LinkedIn profile. Even off platform, you send an outreach message to somebody, they'll probably search you out on LinkedIn to see whether they should reply or not. So your profile is the biggest asset on LinkedIn. Making sure it looks great, making sure it's up there is important. The second thing I want to say about it is, when you're when on the profile, if you're sharing company content and actively sharing the company content, if you're a HR manager and you're seeing somebody who's actively promoting the company they're working for, that's a huge tick. Mm-hmm. So they're my profile tips. And then the other one I would say is, and these are just practical. Graham will probably have a few more, because I know Graham's way more involved in the kind of recruitment world on LinkedIn as well. Way more than me, actually. You dive more into that than me. Be careful attaching like your CV in the DMs. Mm-hmm. If you DM somebody on the CV, the better thing would be to do, in my view, would be to drop them a message and say, I'd love to apply for this role. Where would be best to send my CV to? Because a lot of people block attachments in DMs. So it may well be that you send it, they see it, but they don't download it because of the risk. And one last one, you have to really keep an eye on your DMs. If you're going to message people with your DMs, be on it.
Yeah. So I'm in lockstep with Dean in terms of, when you make that initial outreach, make sure that your LinkedIn profile is the very best version of you. As Dean said, we're forming an impression as to who's reaching out to engage with me. And if somebody doesn't like your profile or doesn't think that your profile is up to a certain standard, they're never going to look at your resume. Secondly, what I would offer is, as well as sharing the company's information from your profile, when you do reach out to the HR professional, do not lead with, I want to apply for a job. Simply start off with, would you be open to connecting? Once they connect, perhaps wait 24 or 48 hours and then send them a polite, professional, and courteous thank you. Now, after you've sent the thank you, perhaps endorse them, perhaps like some of their content, and then a couple of days later, reach out and say that you've noticed this position. Would you have any additional guidance or direction that you could offer, because you're very interested in the role? But don't lead with, can you help me get a job? Allow them to see your face and engage with you a few times before you make that ask.
Brilliant. So, Graham, I'm going to grill you on a couple of things now.
Okay.
If you were a salesperson coming to LinkedIn and going, I've got to build my social selling muscle. I've got to really nail this because I've got a busy year ahead of me. I've got to hit my targets.
Yeah.
What are some of the big tips and advice or tips you would give people?
Absolutely. So the scenario is that I'm a new business development executive and Dean is my VP of sales. He's just employed me. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is I am going to update my LinkedIn profile, because the sorts of attributes that Dean expects his sales executives to have, cold calling, negotiation, contract management, all of those things and crushing quota, sales quota, is all of the things that Dean, as the VP of sales, wants to hear. But now Dean wants me to go and sell to the CFO or the VP of IT. The fact that I'm crushing quota or great at cold calling means absolutely nothing to those two audiences. And so I want to make sure that my profile is speaking to the pain points, and I'm establishing myself as a subject matter expert in solving CFO problems or VP of IT problems. So that's the first step. The second step is to look at my existing network. Now that I've got this new job and I'm working with Dean, what sort of individuals are influencers and decision makers who could actually purchase our products and services? If my network is bereft of any of those influencers and decision makers, then what I need to do is to go out and fill up my network with those individuals. These are the people that I would ideally like a back-to-back call with. And so if I was just doing a run through the steps, step one, let's set the stage. This is your profile. Okay, you're a subject matter expert, great. Step two, you've got a stage. Let's put some bums in seats. Let's build out the network of influencers and decision makers. Now, once we've got an audience, step three is let me now start to talk to them. And I'm not talking about the functions and the features of what I'm offering. What I'm talking about is what is keeping that CFO or the VP of IT up at night. Because what I want to be known by repetition of content and subject matter expertise that I'm delivering is I'm a subject matter expert, I'm a consultant in my field, and I am not waiting for my audience's permission to start adding value. So I'm just going to pause there. Dean, is this resonating?
Yeah, and if you're listening and watching to this on social, we can see your comments live. So if you comment, it does pop up and we can see it and we can answer your questions. I think, Jim, you raise a really good point there about putting bums on seats.
Right.
Yeah, and building an audience.
Yeah.
Because I know lots of salespeople, they go, I don't have time to post. I just need to cut to the chase with people. People will either want to buy or they won't. What do you make of that thought process?
I find it at odds with their other stated objective, as I would like to be seen as a strategic partner with my clients. I'd like to be seen as an advisor. And I think that mindset of, hey, I just want to sell, I think it comes from how you internally view yourself. If you view yourself as a transactional salesperson, that's going to come out in how you behave and engage with the world. I think that if you have more of a consultative approach, and if your objective is to be that trusted partner and to have these long-term relationships with clients, then start off as you mean to go on. And I'm going to touch on one point, Dean, that perhaps you can elaborate on, is the value of a relationship. Because the stronger the relationship, the greater the opportunity is to influence a decision.
Yeah. Yeah. So I have a view. If we're trying to, at some point with any decision maker, you have to have a level of relationship where they can go, I can see how I could work with this person. You have to create that somewhere in the process. That has to happen, whether it's at the first meeting or before the proposal or after the proposal. You've got to do that. So I'm a firm believer of, if that's what's going to happen, how can I do that from the day one? And so I was saying to somebody earlier, the way I approach LinkedIn, I've got a year's worth of pipeline already planned. Joe's just asked a question. We'll come to Joe in a second. So I've got a year's worth of pipeline already planned. I've engaged with those people. I've connected with those people. I've thanked them for connecting. And now I'm using my content, my posting every day, to nurture those people in terms of giving value through content, but actually them getting to know me and getting familiar with me to build that relationship track. I might be working on a smaller group of people. So at the moment, I've got about 600 people in my pipeline for the year.
Right.
But I might only be working on 15 or 20 of them right now. The rest I'm nurturing with my content. And so it actually gets easier for me to sell down the road than it does in January, because January I'm starting with brand new lists, 600 people. But actually come April and May, some of these people are messaging me saying, I've been seeing your content about this for the last couple of weeks.
Yeah.
And so some of those targets actually become inbound opportunities.
Absolutely.
So the content can build a relationship for you,
Yeah.
assuming you don't do that whole corporate thing where you just share stuff without any context and don't share your flavor in it and don't get a bit of your personality out.
Right. You're missing that authenticity because when it comes from marketing, it sounds and looks like marketing.
Yeah. So
And
Joe's just asked, are you saying, I'll put it up on screen. Are you
yeah,
saying your profile should always be re-edited like your CV for each different job role?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Let me take a. I've got a couple of points, and then you pile on, Dean. So it's not everything in your LinkedIn profile, Joe. It's a certain emphasis. And so in the scenario that I played out, perhaps in my summary section and the top 3 skills in my skills section, it might have been contract negotiation, cold calling, contract management. And in the summary section, I'm talking about my sales expertise. Now, for the bulk of the experience inside of your LinkedIn profile, what I would recommend to anyone is fill it with this is what you actually enjoy doing. And how doing the things that you enjoy, how has it made a difference to the organization's financial performance? And how has it made a difference to the customer or client experience? Because regardless of your role inside of an organization, you have helped with one or both of those things. And why the things that you enjoy is because when somebody meets you and they have formed an impression of you from what they've seen on your profile, anytime any one of us is asked about something that we enjoy, that's going to come through in our tone, our body language, and our excitement. And especially if you're looking for a job, looking down at Verena right now, when your CV or your profile is based upon the things that you enjoy, when you're asked, why you're looking for a position, you're able to respond. That's a great question, Graham. Everything this position offers, I enjoy doing. Let me give you some examples. It looks like you're running towards the opportunity versus running away from your current situation.
That's spot on. Yeah. And one of the things I've found, and I've shared this a couple of times, is that headline below your name goes everywhere with you. So if you comment on one of your prospects' posts, that headline is there with your smiley face, with your name, the headline's underneath. But most people just go sales rep at, and that's it. But yeah, when you think about it, and India, one of our team here, Graham, her headline is let's quit let's quit cold calling and get more meetings.
Yeah.
And so she will go, her target is to reach and engage with more companies who have a high propensity of cold calling, maybe fed up of cold calling. And she'll just go and engage on their posts and comment on their posts meaningfully. She's not spamming them, but she'll engage with whatever they're sharing and talking about. And then people come and message her back and saying, how do you quit cold calling? So that headline can create a lot of curiosity that makes your prospects think, who's this person? I need to know a bit more.
So perhaps we should ask a question of Joe. Is this, did our response resonate?
Yeah, Joe, did we answer your question? And if anybody else is watching and they got questions, we're here. I know it's late here in the UK, but it's the day is young for you, Graham, right?
Well, relatively young. It's 10 to 2 in the afternoon.
Oh, well, that's young for me.
There you go. So Dan's got a question for you, Dean.
Dan. Dan, do I enjoy sales even when people aren't interested? Personally, I can't sell anything. It bothers me to ask anything from anyone. Dan, I think I don't think I sell. I think I get people curious.
Mm-hmm.
The reason why people don't like selling is because they think they have to ask people for something. So one of the best messages I ever use on LinkedIn is I will go to a company, I'll engage with the decision makers, build up a relationship of just conversation, just like you would with anybody else. Then I'll do my research on the company and I'll drop a voice message to them and say, you know, I've really enjoyed having some contact with you. And I've been researching what you've been up to and what your team, sales team and marketing team's up to on LinkedIn. And I can see some opportunities for you to have an advantage on the platform. Would you be free if I showed you them? And I probably lose sales from this because I won't push the issue. I won't say, oh, you should do this.
Mm-hmm.
What I'll do, I will engage with them, do that voicemail. They'll say, oh yeah, show me. I go on the call, show them what I saw, show them how they can improve. And then they ask me, so how can you help us?
Yeah.
So if I can expose and show them, one, I understand the problem, but I also have some answers, they ask me.
Yeah.
So that's how I do it. So Dan, I understand your pain. Actually, I'll tell you a story, Dan. My first job was working in a company where I had to, if I wanted to sell, I had to cold call. It was before pre-social media. I was the worst cold caller you'll ever meet because I took all of the no's personally to the point where I would do things to avoid the calls. So I've always found a way and always worked on a way where I would avoid having to do that stuff. So that's why I feel so comfortable here, because I just give advice, give tips. Some people will run away and use them and never see me again. But some people go, this guy seems to know a thing or two, and will ask for help. Graham, what do you think about the whole sales piece that Dan's mentioned?
Again, it's how you view yourself. What you've just described as in your process, Dean, is one of education and empowering others. And I think that if you help people understand what the problem is, why it's a problem, and then here are some ways in which you can solve it, well, you're in the best position then to say, well, who is now going to solve the problem? Because we know what needs to get done. And so if you want to solve the problem, it's either we're going to do it internally. Well, if you could have figured out what needed to be done, it wouldn't have been a problem in the first place. We're going to get your help, Dean, because we think we can learn something from you and we'd like your assistance. Or it's going to be shopped out for to somebody else. See who can give them the lowest price. However, I think the relationship that you form with somebody, taking them through the what, the why, and the how, starts to solidify it, and you run less risk of it being shopped out because each interaction they've had value from you, and you started to form an ever stronger relationship. We got some great feedback from Joe. Thank you, Joe. I thought our response was spot on. He's running to an opportunity. Let's all keep our fingers crossed that Joe closes his deal. And hey, Dean, we've got a question from David.
Oh, I can't see that one. Where's that?
So David is asking.
David, yeah, there's David Fenton. I know David Fenton.
Oh, I'll let you take it.
Do we approach profiles or content? And Andy's here. Let me just come to. Do we approach? Andy's here, so Andy, I'll come to you in a minute. David, profiles for people are actually probably more important than company pages. It's the person that people buy into. Now, obviously, you want to have your company page looking respectable. You want it to look fresh. You don't want it to look two-bit. But to be honest with you, the company page plays second fiddle, particularly in smaller businesses. The company page is second fiddle to a profile. So I would say, actually, you need a company page because it adds some credibility. but you need to have it updated. But the profile, your personal profile, is way more impactful and way more valuable.
Yeah. What I'd recommend, David, is if you're producing content from your profile, let's say that you've been doing it 5 days a week, by the end of the month, you have at least 20 pieces of content. The top 5 or 6 pieces of content that have really resonated. Dean gave an example earlier where he shared that some feedback was, it felt like you were speaking to me. So where you've got the most engagement and the best response from your content, put those onto your company page. And so it really becomes then a highlight reel of how you have engaged on behalf of your company as a subject matter expert. And so if somebody hasn't seen all of your posts or all of the team's posts, then going to the company page, you're seeing the things that have been proven to resonate the most with your audience.
So Andy's asked a question as well, Graham.
He has.
And I want to kind of have a go at this, but I think you've got a lot to add to this. So Andy's saying, do you recommend using Sales Navigator, or do you think organic posting is best? So Andy, I have Sales Nav. I have Sales Nav because it helps me keep tabs on my prospects. I can find them. I can find the most active prospects, and it helps me keep tabs so I remember to engage with them and I don't lose sight of them. So I use Sales Navigator, absolute advocate of it. And do I think organic posting is best? Maybe I'll put myself in a difficult position. If I had to cancel one of those two, which one would I cancel? Ooh, I'd probably cancel Sales Navigator. The reason being is the content, like if I was starting from ground zero today, the content will actually help me sell better with a larger audience in the long run. So it might take 6 months for me to get going doing content, but actually I'll get more inbound. Yeah. So my LinkedIn now, I'm not the biggest following. I've got 50 odd thousand followers, so not huge, but I'm doing, I think we worked out, it was something like £600,000 worth of new business comes in inbound on my LinkedIn, inbound from the content. Now, when I started, I was getting nothing. Yeah. Zilch. And so I needed Sales Navigator and I needed all of that stuff to actually get me going and build up my network. But now what I do is I use both. So I use Sales Navigator and I use content. Graham, do you want to add to that?
Sure. For those folks who aren't quite sure what Sales Navigator is, LinkedIn offers a variety of licenses that basically give you different functionality on using the platform. And so there's a collection of licenses that are categorized as premium. And then there's additional license that you can buy, which is Sales Navigator. And Sales Navigator allows for a far more thorough interrogation, if you will, or search capability of the LinkedIn database than the other premium accounts. You do not need both. If you're in and on LinkedIn to develop your business, then Sales Navigator's the way to go. And I'm in agreement with Dean that when it comes to growing your audience, then it's what you're really talking about that's going to start to attract people to you, and how you're communicating versus the fact that you can simply find people with a tool.
So do we have any more questions tonight for me and Graham, or can I go home and have something to eat? And Andy, most salespeople need Sales Nav because you can find the most active prospects. I get it. I do it. But if I had the choice, if it was forced on me, I'd go with the content, because the content can get further and the content can do more. So, you know, my LinkedIn account, I'm probably getting in terms of views, every week, I'm probably getting about 50, 60,000 views. I'm sure some of them are the same people, but I'm getting 50 to 60,000 views on my content.
Yeah.
That's like, that's like TV advertising world.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm doing the right stuff, I'm posting the right stuff, that's a TV commercial.
Yeah.
That's huge reach. So if I can do that and get 600 grand's worth of inbound, that's great. But actually I'm then using my sales nav to work on my enterprise clients, my enterprise level opportunities where there might be a lot more groundwork to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's worth pointing out, Dean, that everything that we're describing or sharing, we're simply describing what we do for ourselves.
Yeah.
And so, are we using Sales Navigator? Yes, we are. Are we sharing content? Dean is one of the busiest people, if not the busiest person I know, but he still takes time to create 5 pieces of unique content every day of the week.
It's I'm doing 2 at the moment, 2 a day.
2 a day. 2 a day. Is it easy? No. Has Dean developed a muscle memory and is extremely proficient at this? Yes. But he didn't start off as that.
No.
So the idea is that you can develop these skills and have your LinkedIn profile as being the primary driver for your sales pipeline.
Do you want me to confess what some of my earliest posts were, Graham?
Go on, man.
So there was this trend about 4 or 5 years ago, and it still happens now on LinkedIn a bit.
Right.
Is you post a funny video or something like inspirational, and it goes up like a rocket.
Right.
Doesn't happen as much now, but there's occasional TikTok videos that appear on LinkedIn, and they're like 400,000 likes and ridiculous stuff.
Right.
And what happened was, I was sharing promotional content, stuff like, buy our stuff and all that stuff. But then I put a video up and it got 80,000 views. I was like, oh, I like this. And so basically what I did was I put that funny video up. I even put a cat jumping off a building, a video up once. Right. And I put it up and it got 25,000 views.
Right.
And I was like, wow. And then the next day I put something up about the business and I got a lift on my average views because I'd done this cat video.
Right.
And so I started alternating my content between something that was promoting the business and something that was, at that point, a funny video.
Right.
So I did that, and I was like, actually, I saw my business posts, my promotional stuff go up.
Mm-hmm.
And then I got so addicted to these funny videos that I did a run of funny videos, and I got about 3 million views in 1 week.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, this is great. Loads of people engaging with me and everything. And then the week after, I did a business post and it went to nothing. Like, awful.
Yeah.
And then I realized that actually I've got to get my message out and keep the right people engaged.
Yeah.
And so, I thought about doing a course actually, how to build a following of a 250,000 following on LinkedIn in 6 months.
Right.
And I thought about doing it. The only trouble is when you try and pivot that audience to sell something, they don't want to know.
Mm-hmm. They want to be entertained.
That you've become the funny guy of LinkedIn, and then you try and sell your training, and it's like, I don't care about your training.
Yeah. I've got one observation. Andy says that he's on his journey of posting better content and putting himself out there. A lot of my early posts were more article based because people were asking me, how do I do something? And I took them on face value and said, well, this is how you do it. And it would be, perhaps 1,000 words or something that was a bit longer. And what they were really saying to me I want you to tell me how to do it, but don't take more than 3 sentences. So there's a fine line between entertainment, being really thorough in explaining it to someone so they can absolutely do it themselves, and something in between.
Yeah.
And it's something in the between that's the sweet spot.
Yeah, because you also want people coming back for more.
Absolutely.
And
that curiosity.
Yeah. And on that note, I was going to say with I always explain LinkedIn. The vast majority of LinkedIn users are lurkers. Yeah. They're window shopping.
Yeah.
They're browsing, they're scrolling, and you've only got them for a short period of time.
Yeah.
So you've got to land something interesting or valuable quick.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, quick is about 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. If you get somebody for 10 seconds, actually, here's the thing. Yeah, Andy. Yeah, absolutely. They want easy accessible information, something they can grab hold of, bite-sized. Mm-hmm. Yeah, we have a content formula we call taste. Mm-hmm. But the word itself sums up how it should be. It should be a taste, mm-hmm. a flavor, not the full meal, not the big buffet. And the comparison is people are not picking up a newspaper when they're scrolling on LinkedIn. When you pick up a newspaper, you're deciding, I'm coming here to read something and to read something in detail. Most of the time, what you're doing on LinkedIn is grabbing people's attention and holding it for a little while, before they move on. And when you accept that, you actually start to write content that appeals to that, and people get their value in 10 seconds, 10, 15 seconds. They move on, but they remember that was good. And then they build muscle memory that your content's good for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. All right. Well,
Graham, we said we'd come on for 20 minutes and we're 47 minutes in.
Well, that's what happens when you have 2 talkers on the cast.
So, I mean, if there's no more questions, I think, we're big fans of LinkedIn, Graham. We're big fans more so of social selling because that works on any channel. If you've got the right model, it works on Twitter, Instagram, the works.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you for joining us tonight. And, if you've got more questions, you can go find Graham Riley, or you can find me but you've already found me, I think, probably because you're on my live here. But do come hunt us out. And if you've got any more questions, please, drop me or Graham a line. But yeah, Graham, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you, sir. Likewise.
From the 5 degrees here.
From the -27 here.
Thanks for joining us tonight.
All right.